Hi guys, my name is Bianca and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to talk to you guys about a book that is quite close to my heart, and that is Midnight Sun by Stephenie Meyer. So my love of reading started from Twilight. That was a series that I was addicted to in high school. It was all that I could think and talk about, and it kick-started my obsession with reading. And I remember having posters on my wall, buying all the merchandise, and I really loved their story. I loved Edward. I was Team Edward the whole way. So when I found out that Midnight Sun was going to be released, I knew that I had to buy it. And I'm so glad that I did. I loved it. I absolutely loved it. I think that it was amazing and it was definitely worth the wait. Right from the beginning, I was completely drawn into Edward's point of view and his story. I loved his descriptions. I loved the way that we saw the world through his eyes. I also loved the way that he viewed Bella and the first time that he met Bella and what he sort of thought of her. And I'm not going to go too deep into the actual plot in this book review because I know that a lot of you have probably already read Twilight and you're pretty familiar with the plot. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight some sections of the story that really stood out to me and talk about what I really liked and maybe what I disliked about the story. So diving back into this world has never felt so good. It's been a couple of years since I've actually read the Twilight series, so my memory was a little bit rusty, but diving back into it, it was like I was connecting with this story all over again. It was so great. One of the moments that I really loved in this story was when Edward was tapping into Alice's visions and he sees the vision where he falls in love with Bella and he's in complete denial and rejection. He's like, nope, that's not happening. And I really love Edward's point of view of Alice's visions. So in the book he says, "Did I love her? I did not think so. Not yet. Alice's glimpses of that future had stayed with me though, and I could see how easy it would be to fall into loving Bella. It would be exactly like falling, effortless. Not letting myself love her was the opposite of falling. It was pulling myself up a cliff face, hand over hand, the task as grueling as that I had no more than mortal strength." And I think this is the back quote that's used on the back cover of Midnight Sun, and I think it's quite lovely how he describes his feelings for Bella and the way he feels towards her at that moment in the story. I think it also feels kind of strange seeing Bella through Edward's eyes. It's like I'm seeing a completely different person. I actually really love the way that he describes Bella and the way that he sees her through his eyes. So one of the descriptions is, "Bella was good. All the other things added up to that whole, kind and self-effacing and unselfish and brave. She was good through and through, and no one seemed to be aware of that besides me." And I also love the way that he describes her and he talks about the shape of her face and her eyes and the way that he can sort of get lost in the depth of her brown eyes, and it's really, really cute. I also really love the way that Stephenie captures Edward's feelings and how they changed towards Bella. So when he first describes Bella, he doesn't really feel anything straight away. It's more so fascination. So he spots Bella and he sees that he can't read her mind and he doesn't really understand her. She's someone who's really difficult for him to read. And then this fascination soon turns into protectiveness when he sees the way that Jessica thinks about Bella. So Jessica calls Bella an idiot and she doesn't really have very nice thoughts towards Bella. Edward wants nothing more than to sort of put himself between them and to protect Bella from Jessica's intentions. And then he also notices that a lot of the boy student population have a keen interest in Bella and they're all trying to ask her out to prom. And that's when Edward starts to feel the possessiveness, the jealousy, and then he starts to feel sort of that attraction once he starts to take notice of Bella more. And I really like the way that this transition and his feelings weren't straight away, oh my god, I'm in love with her, look at her. But they're more realistic, which I really, really liked. There's also a really, really cute scene when Edward finds out that, yeah, he has feelings for her and he's talking with Bella and he says to her, "I said it would be better if we weren't friends, not that I didn't want to be." "Oh, thanks, now that that's all cleared up," she said sarcastically. She paused under the edge of the cafeteria's roof and met my gaze again. Her heartbeat stuttered in fear or anger. I chose my words carefully. She needed to see, to understand that it was in her best interest to tell me to go. It would be more prudent for you not to be my friend. Staring into the melted chocolate depths of her eyes, I entirely lost my hold on light. But I'm tired of trying to stay away from you, Bella. The words felt like they burned their way out of my mouth. And that's just a really, really cute scene between those two. Edward's a pretty observant character, so I find it really funny that he notices that Bella, her face flushes around him, her heart races, and she's got all the signs of attraction, and yet he still doubts her attraction to him, and he knows that he's a predator, and he knows that vampires are beautiful, and yet he still thinks that his feelings for her just go way beyond whatever she could feel for him, which I find quite funny. What I also like about Midnight Sun is that there are some gaps that are filled in the story that Bella doesn't really get to see in Twilight. So when Bella was attacked when she went out with Jessica and her other friend, and Edward comes and he shows up and he saves the day, the attackers, you don't really know what happened to them. So all you know is that Edward picked up Bella and he wanted to kill them and he ends up racing off. So we don't know whether something happened to those bad men. But then in Midnight Sun, it's revealed that actually Edward and Carlisle, Edward really wanted to kill them, but Carlisle's like, no, that's probably not a good idea. So they arranged for them to, I think they knocked the guy unconscious, the main guy, and then they got him arrested and he was responsible for some other crimes, so he ended up getting sent to jail. So I think it's really interesting how we learn all these other different details about the story. I think with Twilight, you only get to see Bella's point of view. So Bella sort of views Edward as perfect. He can do no wrong. He's got the best intentions. But in this book, because you're inside Edward's head, you realize that, oh, okay, Edward's actually a bit of a different character than what I thought that he was. There are parts of Edward that sort of have me unsure. Like, there are cute bits where he loves Bella and he's always got her best interests. But then there are some bits that are borderline creepy. I'm sorry, but it's true. So, on page 509, he talks about Bella crying, and then he talks about getting her tea and then tasting it. And then he says, I swallowed Bella's tear. Perhaps it would never leave my body. After she left me, after the lonely years had passed, maybe I would always have this piece of her inside me. And I didn't find that cute at all. I found that quite disturbing. There are just some descriptions that really have me a bit, like, really uncomfortable. There's also, I think, a scene where Bella's getting the blood transfusion later in the story. And he's like, oh, I hate the idea of having someone else's blood inside of Bella. And it was just the way that he described it was a bit creepy. But there's not a lot of that in the book, but there were just a few certain scenes that sort of had me a bit unsure of Edward. I think the good thing about this story too was that I could see how fast their relationship was going. Like, it reminded me a bit of Romeo and Juliet in a sense, because they hadn't really known each other all that long. Their relationship was sort of still fresh, and Bella's talking about getting changed into a vampire. And I'm sort of like, you don't really know this guy all that well, and you want to be with him forever. But I guess that's sort of the way that things go. Like, when you're young and you're in love, you think that this person's the world, and I think Bella was thinking that way. So yeah, it was a bit, I sort of realized that now. When I was just reading Twilight in Bella's point of view, I didn't really feel like that was fast. But now that I'm reading Edward's point of view, it's a bit like all of a sudden I'm like, whoa, wow, that's quick. What I really liked too with the story was that there was more description and more connections and more like explanations sort of thing. Because Edward can read minds, that makes it so much easier for Stephenie Meyer. So when James decided that he wanted to hunt Bella and he wanted Bella as sort of a prize, I remember reading the book and thinking, why don't you just stay in Forks? Why don't you just keep Bella in your home and just protect her and surround her? But Edward says in the story that actually that would have happened. He probably would have found Charlie. James would have found all of these other people that really meant a lot to Bella, and just even innocent people, and just killed them. So there probably never would have been a time where all of them could have just stood around and protected Bella, because there's always going to be consequences. So I like that he's sort of explained the different scenarios and going through his head too, or which way should we go? How should we do this? How should we protect Bella? And Alice has these visions, and these visions split off in all these different scenarios, and they both have to try and sort of come up with the best idea to keep Bella safe. Another thing that I really liked that you missed out on in Twilight is their actions. So there's quite a lot of action when they're racing to get to Bella. And Bella sneaks off to meet James. There's a bit where all of them have to race to catch up. And because we were in Bella's point of view in Twilight, we don't really know what happened in between that and how Edward got to Bella in time. And you learn that he actually had to take a plane because James led them way away from Bella, and James actually did get a plane to get to Bella too. So that was pretty interesting. I think what was also interesting was the sort of the Grand Theft Auto stuff going on and the chase and stealing cars, all the stuff that the Cullens were doing to get to Bella. So I like that we got that part of the story that we originally didn't get in Twilight. And also Alice doing the cover up and how she sort of made it look like Bella did fall out of a window when she didn't. I like that as well. I think the biggest twist in the story, probably for a lot of people, is that we find out that James's past is actually connected to Alice's past. So he knows what or who Alice was when before she got turned into a vampire and what happened in her past. Now I found this quite shocking actually, but I was a bit disappointed that there wasn't more mentioned. So this is in part in the story where James refers to Alice. So he says, "The answer was there all along, and I was so afraid Edward would see that and ruin my fun. It happened once, ages ago, the one and only time my prey escaped me." And then later on he says, "She didn't even seem to notice the pain. Poor little creature," the tracker was explaining. "She'd been stuck in that black hole of herself for so long, 100 years earlier, and she would have been burned at the stake for her visions. In the 1920s, it was the asylum and the shock treatments. When she opened her eyes, strong with her fresh youth, it was like she'd never seen the sun before. The old vampire made her a strong new vampire, and there was no reason for me to touch her then. I destroyed the old one in vengeance." So he mentions Alice escaping him knowing Alice, but I don't really know what else. Like, I want to know the other parts of the story. I really love Alice as a character, so I'd really love to know more about her and her past. So overall in the story, I think that the beginning really had me captured. I really enjoyed the beginning of Midnight Sun. But then as I got through the story, I felt like it was getting a little bit slower. Because it was over 700 pages, I felt like it dragged on a tiny bit. And the amount of detail that Edward was giving at some points was unnecessary. But I still loved the story. I enjoyed some of the little details, Alice's visions. As a whole, I think that it was definitely worth the read, and I would probably read it again. It was a great reintroduction into the Twilight world. So I would probably, if she made these Edward's point of view in New Moon and some of the other books, I would probably read it. So overall, I would give Midnight Sun a 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed it. I liked it, and I think that other people will probably enjoy it too. If you love Twilight, you probably will love Midnight Sun as well. Have you read Midnight Sun yet? If you have, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. And if you're interested in more book reviews or writing related videos, don't forget to hit that like and subscribe button. Thank you for watching.